Tonight, a KXAN investigation as the clock winds down for a man on Texas death row for the murder of 19-year-old bride-to-be Stacy Stites. Her body strangled with a belt and dumped along a rural road in the Lost Pines north of Bastrop on April 23, 1996.
I did my best, and somebody come along and do something like this to my baby. And I can't get my baby back. She's gone.
Linked by DNA, investigators arrested Rodney Reed, who initially denied knowing Stacy. Over time, his story changed to one about a secret affair with the young woman, who was set to marry a police officer, Jimmy Fennell.
Last time I saw Stacy alive was the night before, on the 22nd. We were together. We had sex.
A jury convicted and sentenced Reed to death. But over 2 decades and 8 denied appeals, he never stopped proclaiming his innocence. Then, this year, just 10 days before he was scheduled to die, an appeals court stayed his execution.
And while he waits to find out if he gets an appeal, Reed's defense is working to show the court that recently surfaced evidence could point to another killer. New forensic experts say the DNA found in Stacy Stites could have been left there days before she died. Those experts also question when investigators have said the crime happened, that someone could have moved her body hours earlier. The original medical examiner in the case backs that up, saying prosecutors misconstrued his estimation of the time of death and that evidence of a rape isn't so clear. And 2 of Stacy's former co-workers have now come forward after 19 years to say the pair had a consensual relationship. So we went to Texas death row to talk to Rodney Reed about how these new developments may help spare his life.
Would you talk to me a little bit about Stacy? Tell me about her. What was it about her that you liked?
Our relationship was somewhat discreet, you know what I'm saying? We was sneaking around, but she was just she was a fun person. She was a really fun person.
At the time, do you remember if you saw a future with her, or? No,
we wasn't looking at life like that. You know what I'm saying? We were doing what we were doing. At the time, I was 27, she was 18, turning 19, I was turning 28,
Have you ever reached out to her family? Because you know that they are very critical of you and believe that you are guilty.
Well, her mom and her 2 sisters, you know what I'm saying? I just hate the fact that they've been misled, just like the jury was. The state has misled them and stood in their corner, and I'm pretty sure that they're still standing in their corner and standing on this conviction, but it's not true. The evidence speaks for itself. They're still trying to kill me for something I had nothing to do with.
If you did not kill Stacy, who do you think did?
The evidence points to one person. The time frame what these doctors come up with points to one person. And all you have to do is read that information and you'll know exactly who that person is.
Jimmy Fennell?
Exactly.
And that's what you believe?
That's what the evidence points to.
What about these 2 former co-workers of Stacy's who now say that she told them that you 2 were in a consensual relationship?
It kind of made me feel a little, like someone else did know.
Did it surprise you that almost, 19 years later, people would come forward and say that?
Like I said, when you're out in public, people see things that you're not paying attention to them, you know what I'm saying? And it's just a blessing that they come forward.
Well, these witnesses could be crucial as the defense has had difficulty establishing any relationship ever existed. A string of other rape allegations has not helped Reed's case, though he has never been convicted of any of those rape accusations.
And what about the man many believe is the real killer, Stacy's fiancé, Jimmy Fennell?
Well, he declined our request for an interview when we tried to reach him in prison. Years after the murder, Fennell, a cop himself, pleaded guilty to kidnapping and having sex with a person in his custody. His lawyers tell us, quote, it's difficult when a police officer goes to jail, but Fennell stepped up and took his medicine, they say, and he should be out in 3 years. And
we take an even closer look at that side of the story online. Right now on KXAN.com, our interactive web project, Murder in the Lost Pines. KXAN takes a digital approach to the murder and the characters who make up this case. Video interviews with Stacy's mother and co-workers in the hours after her body was found. A deeper look at the new evidence and a timeline of the crime and conviction, plus new conversations with both Rodney and Stacy's families. Murder in the Lost Pines on the homepage of KXAN.com. And Shannon, you mentioned earlier that the medical examiner in Stacy's murder case has recanted some key points from 19 years ago.
Yes, and that is part of the argument Reed's attorneys are making for an...
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Doom.
Crazy. Say what up, world? It's the locker room, man. We here, man. We back. It's Wednesday, 8:30. Basketball season. I got my man Sherwynn Patton in here. He a brother, more like a mentor, big brother. We're gonna talk about this Robert Reed. We got brother Muhammad, Bobby Mack, Worldwide Beat pulling in right now. If y'all don't know, in Texas right now it's cold, so this cold throw us off. I was shocked when I went to Michigan, world, and it snowed, and I still had to keep moving and going on with my regular day. First time it snowed, I looked out the window, saw the snow, jumped right back in the bed and went to sleep. Like in Texas, if it snowed, everything shut down. About 30 minutes later, man, I had knocks at my door. The coaches was coming to get me. They were like, "What are you doing? You supposed to be in class. You supposed to be getting ready to go to workout." Like, man, it's snowing, coach. Don't nothing go on. Say, brother, this is Michigan. You might as well get used to this. So today I rep it. Juwan Howard is the coach. Big Nuke. 5'5". It's hoop season, baby. I was lucky, man, yesterday, Sherwynn, to get an opportunity to go watch UT practice, man. Coach Shaka Smart. They doing a pretty good job out there, man, and he's building a solid program.
We'll see.
Who's your college team? Talk to me early before we get into this serious convo.
Well, I know that most people say, since you're from Austin, that you're supposed to like UT.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who I don't like.
Who is that?
UT.
Come on in, brother. We live. Let's go. Come on in. Let's get right. Come on in, man. We breaking it in, man. I told you it's Austin, Texas. It's cold. It's 40 degrees. I'm just hoodie down. You see? We got the honorable, my G. What's up, man? Mr. Brother Robert, I love you. You already know. Come on in, man. We're going to talk some serious business. We just keeping it light on this sports right quick. So you don't like UT?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't want to say I don't like UT as if I hate the team. That ain't my favorite team. So if I had to say that I had a favorite team, it'd probably be Houston.
University of Houston.
University. You want to ask me why?
Yes, that's the next question. Exactly, that's the next
So
question.
I have a 1 and 2, Houston and Baylor. My brother went to Baylor, and I had a cousin that played for Houston.
Yeah.
So that's just simple. Yeah.
All right, old school. Well, mine is, Michigan, but back in the game, I was a University of Houston fan because of the Phi Slamma Jamma, Akeem Olajuwon. I was a big man before anything. I was bigger than everybody, so I tried to, emulate a lot of his moves and his quickness and, his charisma around the rim. So I was always a University of Houston fan, Houston Rockets fan. The dream is my people's, but when I went and chose that blue, I love Michigan because of the football. Fell in love with Ramil Robinson and Glenn Rice later on after that. You know what I'm saying? Antonio Jobert, my Cats. Brother, what kind of team you into? You a sports dude. I know you heavy. Well, who you like?
Man, I like a little bit. I'm with the home team. I root for the University of Texas. I don't have a lot of time to really watch, but when I can catch a game, they'll put you in heart attack mode. 'Cause you don't know. You don't know whether they're gonna put the best foot forward or not.
Right,
so, but
right.
I'm into college ball. My wife is a heavy basketball fan.
Yeah.
She actually played for the University of Texas back in the '90s, and so
that's what's up.
of course they.
What up, baby?
Texas,
Love and support always.
Yeah.
So you got hoop in your blood. That's why, but they don't know your family beautiful and got athletes and all that too. We'll get to that. Worldwide, what's up with you, homeboy? You ready to step on the camera, brother? Yeah, we finna get to this real conversation.
Yeah, my wife said, "Why the hip hop?"
What she say? What Bobby say?
Well, tell her after. How you doing?
It's live. This is live studio. Live studio. Bobby, tell me what you said, Bobby. I know you said something. You gonna type it in and say what you said anyway.
Oh man.
We had problems at the door, so we on.
We good.
Hey man, we here worldwide. Got Sherwynn Patton. I got my brother Robert Muhammad. Y'all ready? We're gonna get right to it, man. It's the locker room, man. We here for some real talk tonight, man. We got some issues that we really need to get on the table. All the light talk is off. If you don't want your kids to watch, change the channel. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to get deep today, man. And we got some issues in Austin, Texas, and Texas, period, that we need to discuss that are affecting us all over the world and all over the country. So without more worldwide, how we doing? You good?
We're good, man. It's been a blessed day. We all woke up. It's supposed to be the best day of your life if you're watching the show.
Yeah.
It's how you look at it.
It's how you look at it.
You know what I'm saying? But
sir,
through the grace of God, I made it here, and here we are, baby.
We rolling.
We finna do another one.
Eddie.
Damn.
Let's get it. How y'all feeling, brother? What's up? Let's talk to it, man. We on this case. This Robert Reed.
Man.
We trying to save this man's life. And if it was my brother or my uncle or cousin, I would want the world to do it for me too. So I'm gonna let you discuss it because I talked to the family. They trust you more than anything yourself. You know what I'm saying? They know who you are and they understand what you're about. So I'm gonna let you discuss that a little bit with the world so we can get behind it and support the movement.
Well, the interesting thing about it is what we're discussing tonight, a lot of people don't even know about.
Right.
And when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about people from our community. I'm talking about black people, Latinos, from this area.
Right.
And, I found this out a couple of weeks ago. I've been working with the family for nearly 20 years.
Okay.
His brother's been incarcerated for 22 and a half years. He was convicted of the rape and murder of a white female. And his court-appointed attorney had less than 2 months to prepare for a case that would put his life in the balance. And so he was convicted and he was given the death sentence. And so he was blessed. I think in 2014 was his first execution date, and they gave him a stay of execution. And but the family's been working year in and year out and appealing, trying to get a new trial.
Right.
He's not asking to be just released scot-free, but he's asking for a new trial so that he can have an opportunity to get a fair trial.
Right.
There's a lot of interesting facts. If you don't know, the brother's name is Rodney Reed, but there are a lot of interesting facts. He was convicted. He was charged in Bastrop County, and if you grew up in Austin, Texas, or Central Texas, it was two places you didn't want to go
And I'm gonna tell you, Williamson County, and Bastrop
County.
Ain't no games.
So, we've just been on a campaign to raise awareness to his case and get as many people as possible, not only in Texas but all over the world, to appeal to the governor now, because it's been given an execution date, to give a stay of execution so that the family can appeal for a new trial to get this brother off of death row. And some of the information and the evidence that has come out recently, we believe, the family wholeheartedly believe, all of the community advocates believe, a lot of entertainers are signing on. Everybody that's looking at his case believe that this information can get him exonerated, and ultimately released and acquitted of these charges. And so he has been given an execution date of November the 20th.
Say that again.
Execution date of November the 20th.
Okay.
So in 21 days, they plan on killing this man, and leaving his mother and his brother and his family to contemplate when will they ever get justice for their family member. And this is not just about the Reed family.
Right.
But Mrs. Sandra Reed represents many mothers in the line of history of black people here in America that's been seeking justice since the soles of our feet touched the shores of North America.
Come on, man.
And so here we are in 2019, and we are still crying out for justice in this country. And so, you know, the thing that kind of gets under my skin is that we as black people, sometimes we have the tendency to operate like we've been lulled to sleep. That's them over there. So we drive by like when there's a wreck on I-35, and we look at the wreck, right? We rubberneck, and you know, it causes other people to be late to work or to get into an accident. But this is not simply about Rodney Reed and his family, because it's Rodney Reed today, but it can be one of our children tomorrow, or one of us tomorrow.
One of us.
You know, and so, because as long as he's not free and he hasn't gotten a fair trial, then that means that any one of us could be in the same situation. So we're here to raise awareness and to encourage people to take action and write the governor, email the governor, call the governor, appeal to the governor of the state of Texas to give a stay of execution and to allow this black man to get a fair trial. Interesting thing, there was I got some notes here.
Let's go play with it.
There was a motion filed today to stay the execution, and it was denied. Now that is not good news. However, because it was denied, then it has an opportunity to go to the Supreme Court. So it's an opportunity for the Supreme Court to hear it and then to rule, you know, based on some of the information that's being set forth. So there are a lot of different aspects of this case that we're going to be exploring in the next few days. And so individuals like Dr. Phil was contacted by the Innocence Project, and he went and he interviewed Rodney Reed. Dr. Phil has a background in forensic science.
Before we get to that, let's talk about that next step with the Supreme Court. Explain that to the people and let them know how that works, with that being with what happened today.
Well, the
and
Supreme
the documents
Court,
that were posted on social media.
Of course, it's the Supreme Court, so they have an opportunity to intervene and to use, if you would, their weight, you know, to turn the tide and to give the brother an opportunity to appeal and impress upon the governor to give a stay of execution. So these things are very important. So the attorneys are working very hard. There are a lot of legal issues. You know, there's one thing about us: when we are victims of something, you know, just like, you know, when the officer shot the brother in Dallas, when we are victims, we get treated like we're the predator. When we're the predator, we get treated like we're the predator.
Exactly.
So when this brother was sitting in his living room and was gunned down by an intruder in his living room, they pulled a tube of his blood. They ran his criminal background.
They gotta have
you know,
yeah.
but they didn't do the same thing for the one that pulled the trigger.
Right.
Somebody who said they had been working so long, they were delusional, didn't know where they was at, and you ain't pulling no blood. You're not testing what foreign elements are in the system. But these things are very important. So there are some aspects of the case that we'll leave to the attorneys to deal with, because they have to fine tune these things and they have to deal with them. And so
we got viewers coming in now signing petitions
of evidence, and we'll say this throughout the show. You know, go to change.org and sign that petition so that we can drive this point home in this campaign to free this black man and give him. We're in 2019. And one of the individuals that was on the Dr. Phil show, she said back in that time,
Let you know
she said back in that time, like she
Let me
was
shake
saying
my
way
head, bro.
back in the ancient days, back in 1998, 97,
like we just,
it wasn't frowned upon. Interracial relationships were frowned upon. Like we 100 years away from this time.
Right, exactly.
You talking about 22 years ago.
Right,
that's all.
Right, yesterday.
Right, so that was the interesting thing. But we're in 2019 and we still have this interesting phenomenon in America. The Kerner Commission, Lyndon Baines Johnson in 66, 67, and 68 commissioned the Kerner Commission to do a study of why black people were uprising throughout the country and rioting around the country. They could have paid me and saved money even though I wasn't born yet. But the Kerner Commission came back and said that there are two Americas. One white, one black, separate and unequal. Unfortunately, we are in 2019, and that reality for it's all black men sitting in this room, sitting in this studio. The reality is that we live under that condition right now, today. So that report is just as relevant today as it was back in the late 60s. So. Man, don't get me. You gotta guide me,
nah, bro. That's what I wanted. That's why I got you here, brother. Because this is an issue, and we trying to change it, man. We got to get involved, bro. Like you said, it's been going on. Let's break the cycle and do something different, man. Sherwynn, you can come on in and let's go, man. Let's talk about it.
Well, I think one of the things that you pointed out is that he never did get a trial by a jury of his peers. So he was tried, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was an all-white jury, and that was called a jury of his peers. And so, and he's in Bastrop County. And so now when you talk about today, what we're looking at, they don't want to retry him, because if he truly has a jury of his peers, just like on the Dr. Phil show, I think it was only one person on that show that said that he was guilty, and that was the person who was the prosecutor. 99% of the people who watched that show knew that he was not guilty of this crime. And so I think that what we have to continue to push for is for him just to get a trial by the jury of his peers, and that it should not even be in Bastrop County. He cannot get a fair trial in Bastrop County.
That ain't gonna happen.
And so you know, I think that's one thing. And then the other thing that I want to commend Brother Robert for.
Hold on, we're going to come back to that, because we're going to let y'all get deep. End of the first quarter, the locker room. We got heavy talk going on here. We changing the narrative, man. If you don't want to get behind it, jump in the lake, man. Kill your damn self. I'm sorry, man. We trying to change how we move, and I'm sorry. I thank you, God, for this opportunity. Locker room, second quarter, we coming right back, baby. We'll see you in a second.
I believe that the investigation was stopped prematurely when Rodney was identified as a suspect because of DNA evidence. From where the body was discovered, there was a T-shirt and then a belt, which was partially in the road, and then just a few feet away is across the other side of the road was where the beer cans were found. It's difficult for me as an investigator to believe they didn't at least take a look at the residence where they both lived at that time together. I believe that the investigation was stopped prematurely when Rodney was identified as a suspect because of DNA evidence. From where the body was discovered, there was a T-shirt and then a belt, which was partially in the road, and then just a few feet away is across the other side of the road is where the beer cans were found. It's difficult for me as an investigator to believe they didn't at least take a look at the residence where they both lived at that time together.
Hey, we right back at it, man. Live and direct. Mr. Do-Right playing with them close-ups and stuff. Bobby Magnum put his foot on his throat, man, and he wanted close-ups. Tell them worldwide you want to autographic some of them other shows getting up. We got the close-ups now. Live and do right. So sure, let's get right back to it, man.
So as I was saying, I think this is one of the points I want to make. I think that this is something that our entire community is going to have to come together on, because we're good as a people of finding the things that we don't have in common and trying to divide ourselves. Right. And I don't think that that's going to serve us well. It never has. Right. And one of the things that I commend Brother Robert on is, I think it may have been last week that I reached out to talk to him, because he's been on board with the Reed family for a long time. And one of the things that we hadn't seen to this point that I knew of was the brothers that were Christians coming around them, and we needed to get there. That we need that. Yes. And one of the first things that came out of your mouth, I can't say it like you said. What did you say when the first thing that you said about the church?
You know, it's always been, you know, since we've been in America, we've always been a spiritual people.
True.
Right?
True.
I don't care what label you wear.
Right.
I don't care what language you speak or which part of the landmass you come from. I know our people have always, our core, we've been spiritual.
Yes.
And when we emerged out of the dungeons of slavery here in America and were allowed to set up spiritual centers, the church has always served as the foundation for whatever we needed. When we wanted social justice, it was the church that allowed us to gather in the basement after service and put together programs. When we wanted financial power, it was the church that became a conduit and a facilitator of those that knew finances in our community. When we wanted education, it was the church. When we started the first black-run schools in the church. So the church has long been a power broker of our community and the foundation of our communities. And so the element that we've been missing in recent times, in fact, I heard T.D. Jakes say a couple of years ago that this is the first time in our history that people are falling away from the church. But we lose our way sometimes, but it takes situations and circumstances and vision to get us back. And so when my brother said that, I said, look, the church is the power base of our community. And this is a blessing for us. And I'm going to tell you, you know, and I'm sure they don't mind me sharing this, but the Reed family has been dismayed for many years because they couldn't get the support of the black church. And so not trying, and we can't try to disqualify their feelings. In fact, Roger Reed shared one time that a pastor told him, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. So they just kept marching forward. And over the years, when we would show up to certain rallies and gatherings, the Nation of Islam most times will be the only black group represented besides the family and the neighborhood. So shout out to people like Lily Hughes, who runs the campaign to end the death penalty here, who's been with the family from day one. You know, were it not for groups like that, you know, the family wouldn't really have support. And every time I felt like if I was under the weather or if I had other things scheduled and I knew the annual events would come up, the rallies and those things were coming up, and I found a way to tell myself, you gotta go.
Right.
And every time I rolled up in there, Miss Sandra Reed would hug me and embrace me and say, I didn't think you was coming this year, brother, but you were here. And she would take me around like I was her son and introduce me to everyone. I was just there to support. So to have this brother, Sherwynn Patton, to organize the gathering that you saw in the media on yesterday of different faith leaders from across the city to come and unite. You know, we'll unite for this and for that, and disunite for this and for that. But it made a statement. I believe some people are questioning the motive. I don't care about the motive, because his family needs the support. But I know where the real power base lies in our community, and once we can harness that, all we need is the right purpose. All we need is the right subject, the right thing that we can agree on. And if we can disagree with 99 things, but if we agree on that one thing, we need to come together and unite on that thing. Let's ride for the Reeds, right? So when he said that, I was excited, and I contacted the Reed family, and I told them, matter of fact, I just copy and paste your text message. Say I just got this from Sherwynn Patton, and we was off to the races. And so I was just honored to be present there that day. I didn't need to say anything. I didn't need to do anything, but it did me some good. I was blessed to see those faith leaders in our community coming forward to support, and it was because God moved on this brother's spirit to galvanize them and to get them in the same room to send a resounding message to the governor and to the world.
And I think it's important for us for the world to know. I'm gonna speak directly to the camera on this.
Go ahead.
The first thing that I said to Roderick Reed when I spoke with him was forgive us. And I think that as folks who are part of the body of Christ, we have to be willing to say, we didn't get it on that one, but we're here now. Because when you make up excuses for where we should be, that's not the heart of God either. And the other thing that I would like to say is the motivation behind it. We have to speak to that. I didn't even know about Dr. Field until you told me. That was after we had sent the text. So the motivation for doing this truly came out of prayer. So I'm not saying that to defend Christians. I'm saying this to say that God had Rodney Reed on his mind and on his heart. And it was through prayer when I heard God, and it was just so clear. And you don't have to go get a whole lot of permission from a whole bunch of folks. When you hear something from God, then you just do what it is. It's clarity. It's clarity, and you just do what He says.
Yeah, and that's it.
At that point, and at that point, it's crazy because people, they sometimes put God in a box. But when I heard God indicated that I needed to contact Mr. Muhammad. It wasn't even something that was just that was an afterthought. It was like, contact Robert. Contact Robert. And so
that's just what it was.
That's just what it was. And so this is what I want to say to the church now, and to all faith leaders. We need everybody to sign that petition. That petition is at change.org. Sign it right now. And then after you've signed it, know that if Governor Abbott has not given a stay of execution by November 9th, we need to be there at the governor's mansion at 2 p.m. and we need to be there in droves. It just doesn't need to be one or two of us. It needs to be everybody within the sound of my voice and everybody who was able to see the broadcast and tell somebody else and bring 2 or 3 people with you. Now, I remember back in the day, if there was a good party going on, then what we would do, we didn't just come by ourselves. We brought about 2 or 3 people with us. And so if we could come to something that insignificant, then we can come to something that is significant. This man's life is hanging in the balance, and God is expecting us to step up. So I'm not offended at all by somebody being frustrated or family being frustrated with the people of God, because that's not an indication of who God is. God has to convict the people of God to do what is right. But the fact of the matter is that God always had the Reed family, the Stites family, and everybody who's involved in this on his heart and on his mind. And so the last thing, and I'm gonna get off my soapbox, is this. Roderick Reed spoke yesterday at the very end of that press conference. And one thing that he said was that he was not asking for the governor to do some kind of favor for the Reed family. What he's asking for is what is right. And so that's what we're asking for too. We're asking for what is right. And if you know, who was it that said that if a man doesn't stand for something, he'll fall for anything.
Yes.
And so this is a time to stand. That's all I wanted to say, Brother Muhammad. I know you have some other stuff to add.
I'm gonna let Al talk. Al G live and direct. Give me those stats. You got the mic on, do right for me, so Al can read out something for me. I kind of want to start throwing some stats out there, let y'all know some actual factuals. Go ahead, Al.
All right. So, according to unvalidated or forensic scientists and forensic scientists, misconducted has also played a large role in the wrongful conviction. According to Innocence Project, 50% of wrongfully convicted cases in the state of Texas have been overturned.
50%. Say that again in the mic.
50% were overturned due to improper forensic testing.
I'm gonna let you run with that. You hear that?
Well, one of the messages that we have to get over is that, this is a man's life hanging in the balance.
That's right.
This is not about who can get the shine.
That's right.
Or who's throwing shade.
That's right.
This is not a political ploy.
At no point in time. There you go.
This is not about who can get in front of a camera or who can get behind a microphone.
That's right.
Real talk.
This man's life is hanging in the balance. And many of us are sitting at home watching the news saying, wow, that's messed up. When all you got to do is pick up your phone and just take a break from the shenanigans of whatever social media and go to change.org and sign that thing. Right. If you can't do that, you can show up November the 9th. And all you got to do is show up and stand. Right. If you can't do that, you can email the governor. You can call the governor. Nobody has asked anybody to sacrifice their lives. Right. The Reed family has already done that. Rodney Reed has already put his life up, right? And so we as a people, we got to understand when one of us are attacked, all of us are attacked.
All of us are under attack.
So we got to stop looking, and then when we see leadership standing there and we pull out pom-poms or we critique, because I'm telling you, I've seen over the years, I've seen many people who have said, oh, that's, somebody get killed. Oh, what was the nigga doing?
See?
You know what I'm saying? What was it? Why was he over there? What was he doing? I'm going to give you, and I just had to mention this because I was thinking about it. It was a rumor was hatched last year really quickly. People were saying over social media that, Chris Mason was killed by the police. That he was in Walnut Creek Apartments. I'm talking about as soon as it happened, I got phone calls. That people were asking me for the police chief's number, but there was no question in my mind because we grew up in 2-3 and 2-4 together. It didn't matter to me what he was engaging in. My mind went to, well, what happened to him and why, if it in fact happened that he was killed. I was already ready to go to war. Because I know the position that we are in our community. So we got to stop second guessing ourselves and what is happening, and we got to stand up for something because our children's future is at stake. You understand what I'm saying? So we can go to the case, but I want to read something from Isaiah. It says, justice is turned back and righteousness stands afar off. For truth has fallen in the street and equity cannot enter. So truth fails. Why? Because it's fallen in the street and equity cannot enter. This is a clear and cut case of that. When you consider just these facts, the murder weapon was never tested for DNA. Right? The state's 3 forensic experts have admitted on record to errors in their testimony, which led to Rodney Reed's conviction and death sentence. Dr. Phil had a statement that the medical examiner, one of those forensic experts in the information, the statement he made in August 13, 2012, they talked about the time of death. He said, if the prosecuting attorneys had advised me they intended to use my time of death estimate as a scientifically reliable opinion, I would have advised them not to do so. Then they talked about his spermatozoa being inside of Stacey Stites, which was the catalyst for conviction, rape and murder. But guess what he said about that? He said the spermatozoa I found in Miss Stites could have been deposited days before her death, because it's now coming out that a few people knew that they were having a consensual relationship, and that could have been part of the motive for the real murderer that we'll get to later, who may have killed her. He said, as it relates to sexual assault, he said there is no indication that the spermatozoa that was placed there, that it was placed there in any other fashion other than consensual. This is the medical examiner. So then how do you convict a man of rape?
With all of that.
Which once you get the rape conviction, then the murder, you know, that's so. And then on the Dr. Phil show, they had her cousin, her blood cousin, who said that Stacey told her, she's been disowned by the family, by the way, that Stacey told her that she was in a relationship with Rodney Reed, right? And she said, in fact, when they first started investigating, she said the entire family, along with the police department, saw her fiance as the #1 suspect. She said she don't know where that changed and when it changed, but she's sticking to it. Then one of her coworkers said that they were at work one day and she was asking her, was she happy to be engaged and to be married? And she says, you know, basically, I'm happy, but not that happy. And she admitted to her that she was in a relationship, not with just anybody, but with a black man. So these type of witnesses are coming forward, and there are many more. In fact, there were some people that had relationships with her fiance, Mr. Fennell. That's the one said that when they were at the funeral, that he said she got what she deserved.
Hold on. We're going to keep it right there, because we're going to get into that, because we had some conversation about that. We're going to take a quick break. We got Mac Facts tonight. You jumping live with the Mac Facts tonight? Hey, Mac Facts, second half, man. It's so deep for me, man. And we edit, man. Heavy talk, injustice, Wednesday. We getting justice, though. Mac Facts, second half, man. It's it, real talk. Let's go, Kev.
How y'all doing out there? This Max Fact. Pay attention. We're going to talk about some good topics. We're going to keep it simple, but we're going to keep it real. Stay tuned. It's coming. I'm coming right at you with these facts. I hope you're ready, baby. Mac Facts.
admitted to.
Real quick, man.
Did he done it?
My boy Ray Jack, man, we're gonna throw him a little birthday, a little bash, a little party for the Scorpios. It just ain't for Ray Jack. All the Scorpios, we want y'all to come out and have a good time. It's gonna be cold, so wear your long sleeves. Just a little something, it's just a little something, man. We're gonna have a Canelo fight. We're gonna all come together and just have a celebration. And he ain't never done nothing like this in Austin, so we stepping out, and this is what we doing. This in Pflugerville. 701. Can you? I gotta, cause I gotta get the information. I just came up here. This Reed case got me really twisted right now. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I shouldn't even done a max facts, but it's a fact that if you come out and support Ray and the Scorpios, and we'll have a great time. And we see y'all there. I'm sorry I ain't got the address.
701 West Pecan Street.
701 West Pecan Street. So Saturday night, November 2nd, it starts at 9 o'clock. You'll see Canelo. But we're going to keep throwing the flyers out there so y'all to see it. But just come out, support our boy. We're going to have food. Man, you're going to be able to eat. You're going to have a great time, man. So this is and then, so this place got a hookah, you know what I mean? So you could, vape, hook. You can't be doing all that other stuff. I'm just saying that. I'm just playing, man. But we'll see y'all there Saturday. And like I say, man, forgive me for these facts. This story right here is really lingering with me, man. So we're gonna get right back to it.
In addition to that, we stand in the tradition of Jesus Christ, who defended a woman who was about to be unjustly executed. And so we're asking on today for Governor Abbott to ensure that the new evidence in the Rodney Reed case is heard. We find a few things particularly concerning the murder weapon that has never been tested for DNA evidence in spite of repeated calls for it to be done. That the state's forensic experts have admitted on record that the original time of death is inaccurate, making the timeline for the Reed killing of Stites impossible. We are concerned that other forensic pathologists have concluded that Reed's guilt is medically and scientifically impossible. We're concerned that one of Stacy Stites' co-workers, Alicia Slater, and a cousin has come forward to corroborate Reed's claim their sexual relationship was consensual and that they were romantically involved. We feel like this is enough. We feel like this is enough for the new evidence to be revisited. And no one should be executed when there is reasonable or even possible evidence of their innocence. And so we are asking for this new evidence to be considered and
right back at it, man. Second half, Jaguars, all of that, real men. We're going to finish strong. We got heavy talk. We're going to get right to it in the break, man. We were talking about this process, and it's weighing really heavy on our hearts. We were talking about over the 20-year period how this man's family has truly been through it. His father was head of the movement, moving strong with the movement, and you saw him pass away through the movement. You seen family turmoil through the movement just by them draining them. And talk about that, brother. I'm gonna let you eat on that.
Yeah, we don't realize, what type of toll this takes on a family, and that's why it's important to support them. And over the years, I've seen mom age. I've seen her worry. I've seen that dad go into sickness, and not be able to help as much. I've seen, his brother Roderick hit some rough patches, here and there, and we would talk to family members sometimes when we would go there to Bastrop, and I just seen the transition, and I saw the aging, and I saw sometimes the life being sucked out of them. So there's an aspect of us engaging in this system that when it sucks the fortitude out of you, when it sucks the life out of you, it's designed to make you give up. And when you don't have the support of your own, when you don't have the support of your own community that has experience in the same type of oppression that you have, when others can sympathize and empathize with you and they come to your aid, you know, it's just disheartening. And so, you know, a lot of people don't understand that this is a great state and it used to be its own nation. And every time there's a rough patch, I don't care what president is in office, there's always groups that talk about secession and seceding and separating themselves from the Union. Now, when none of us were born when this great state of Texas was its own nation, but that type of desire, goal, and arrogance gets passed down the same way racism does, right? But I'm seeing and I'm hearing, because I know people that are connected in Bastrop, and this national campaign, this international campaign, and all of this spotlight and this weight that's coming down on Bastrop County is bringing out the arrogance of those that are in authority. And because they are being pressed from the north, from the northeast, from the west, because they're being pressed outside of the borders of this great state of Texas, and some people are pointing and saying you need to come out of the dark ages and come into the modern times, that is bringing out the arrogance. And because of that, they have every intentions on killing this man because they want to prove a point. And so, but we can't sit by and allow that to happen. You know, and so at some point we have to pull on the fortitude. We have to pull on the power and the spirit of the church. We got to pull on the unity of the fraternities and the sororities. We got to pull on the car clubs and the bike clubs, and we got to pull on the street organizations. We got to pull on everything that we got, and we got to get everybody to support the entrepreneurs, and we got to get everybody to support this thing. And so, you know, they have every intentions on killing him. So this is no lightweight thing, and this is not a situation that's going to go away because some people are holding some picket signs. There's some work that got to be done in this thing. And so so even though forensic scientists and experts are coming out and they're mounting this evidence and they're saying that, you know, the murder weapon wasn't tested, but now we have the technology to test it for DNA, right? Several people know that they were having a consensual sexual relationships. For months after the murder, Jimmy Fennell, her then fiance, was the prime suspect in the case. And a recording of one of the police investigations indicate that Fennell was suspected in the murder of Stites, motivated by her relationship with another man. Right? There was, brother asked me to mention this, 2 beer cans found at the scene of the crime tested positive for the DNA of at least one police officer. This test was not reported to the defense at the time of trial.
And that police officer was murdered.
He was murdered
by a migrant worker.
Then her then fiance, Jimmy Fennell, was later tried and convicted for sexual assault. That woman was on the Dr. Phil show, and she recounted the situation. Her and her significant other got into a fight. They called the police. 3 of them showed up. He signaled to 2 of them. They took the man off. He put her in the car, took her to a wooded and secluded area, and raped her. Then told her, "I'll be back at your house tomorrow, and don't you think about calling 911. Well, somewhere she got the courage to come forward. He got convicted. He did 10 years. Now check this out. Just today, an affidavit was filed today by a man named Arthur Snow, who was in prison with Jimmy Fennell. He was a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. They said Jimmy Fennell came to them and asked him for protection, and he would pay him from his commissary if they gave him protection from the blacks and the Latinos. Right? Now guess what this man filed and said? That he admitted to him that he had to kill her because she was dating a nigga. Right? So there are many different aspects of this. And
this is a good place to put this in.
Well, let's put it in. You put it
Say,
in.
man, the Venmo, let me tell them this real quick. The Venmo, I just put that up. The family is not working. They've invested their life into saving this brother's life. So any way we can contribute to helping them, it's at Reed Justice Initiative. You understand what I'm saying? Reed Justice Initiative. It's posted up there. Man, drop a couple dollars somewhere, man. Y'all tricking them dollars off, man. Let's invest in something that's gonna make a change, bruh.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying? Go ahead, brother.
Let's go deeper than that, because let's act like this is the offering plate.
Okay.
And this is one of them big offering plates where we're not asking you to put $1 or $2 in there. If $1 or $2 is all that you have, do that. But if you can give more, give, because this is literally saving somebody's life. And I've heard many times people say that if they could save somebody's life that was innocent, that they would do it. And I've heard many people say that they know that they had somebody who died for them and they knew that they were guilty. Well, this is an opportunity, and I'm talking about Jesus. Go ahead and give that money. Go ahead and give it. And I know that the Patton family, my wife is probably watching, the Patton family is giving. But I want to read this. I want to read this right now. This goes along with what you just said. It says, Fennell's best friend at the time of the crime, Bastrop Sheriff's Officer Curtis Davis,
best friend,
has now revealed that Fennell gave an inconsistent account of where he was on the night of the murder. Fennell had told his friend he was out drinking on that night Stites was murdered. Contradicting this claim, he later stated he was with Stites in their apartment during what we now know was the actual time of death, based on Dr. Michael Baden's updated testimony. When asked to explain his discrepancy, Fennell declined to testify because his answers might further incriminate him. So, you know, it's not like we can't see this. I mean, Ray Charles can see this. So the matter is this: are we going to stand together? And like my brother just said a few minutes ago, this is not about who gets limelight or who gets the mic. It's about who's going to stand up for a man being killed unjustly.
Yes, I mean, it's all. I mean, check. You know, the police did not search Stacy in Fennell's apartment, the last place she was known to be alive. Also, the police released the truck Stacy was driving the night of the murder to Fennell, who sold the truck a few days later.
Why he sell it so fast?
Fennell closed the bank account he shared with Stacy just before her body was found.
Wow. They out of there, bro. They out of there. I'm sorry.
So people gotta understand.
I see why.
And so when people don't understand why we have difficulty with police,
right? And look at all this.
Why we have difficulty against with the justice system,
right? Why
we have difficulty, you know, with these things, and you know, people, you know, black people will tell you in a minute, man, we gotta let due process take its course. When the hell have we gotten and due process been applied to us properly?
Yeah. When has it benefited us?
When have you been able to have faith in due process to know that your loved one or your neighbor has been charged with something and it's going to all work out and it's all going to be fair and just? When has that happened?
If it happened, he wouldn't be in there.
Man, look.
Come on, man.
In the South, back in the Jim Crow South, do you know they used to have on the sidewalks these barrels called laughing barrels, and that when you were walking on the sidewalk, that you could not laugh in the face of a white man. You had to stick your head in that barrel and laugh. Otherwise, you would be brutalized or even charged with a crime.
This is true.
We still living in that day, man. So
yeah. Especially
when you have and you see all of this evidence. You know, you got people signing on now. You got Dr. Phil. You got Kim Kardashian West. You got, I'm hearing now, Mark Cuban. You got state rep
Kurt
Watson. You got the other state reps, and you got people, many different people weighing in on this thing. Everybody that's coming across this is saying, "Come on, man."
Even law enforcement officers.
13 law enforcement officers filed. It's called a amicus brief on this past Monday in support of this case or this evidence being brought forth. This is law enforcement. See, and I just made a comment about why we don't trust them, but now we got at least 30 now. Now that ain't a drop in the butt. However,
but it's something. Yeah.
However,
it's one bait.
It ain't even a bite.
You know, because they'll tell us in a minute that this
of
creed of no snitching, and they want information from us, but they ain't telling on their own.
They ain't telling on their own.
Right. So
they tricking us.
So again, go to change.org.
So
fill out that petition.
Talk to me about this, and this is one of the dates I want to get to, and I'm going to let y'all get back to it. The November 9th date. What's up with the November 9th date? What can we do? Where do we show up? What's going on November 9th?
November the 9th, the campaign to end the death penalty, along with the Reed family, are hosting yet again another rally at the governor's mansion. That's across the street from the Capitol. And it's a demonstration to send a message to the governor. It's on November the 9th. It begins at 2 p.m. And they're going to be different speakers. They're trying to get big names to come in and support it. But that was the last gathering we had, and I think 2014 when they stayed the first execution date there. But we need everybody to come out. We need everybody to come out and support the Reed family and let the world know.
Right.
You may not know the Reed family.
Right.
That's right.
But we got to send a message
that we unify
to
something, bro.
Anybody that has the thought in the mind of white supremacy that we ain't sleep no more. That we're not dead anymore. That the dry bones in this valley called Texas we shook a little bit and then stand up, but somebody prophesied unto the winds. And this Reed case is like the winds letting us know that if we don't get our stuff together, then in just a few days, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, man, but these are the types of things that show the condition that we in, because it takes this type of stuff for us to unite for something that's serious and that's bigger than ourselves. We gotta wait till somebody die, unfortunately, and we pray that this doesn't happen with this brother. But November the 9th, we're rallying. We're trying to put together a statewide day of action as well. The Reed family will be moving throughout the state. And they do need support to move throughout the state, because I'm finding out that our
financial support.
Thank you, brother. Cheddar, cheese, bread,
broccoli,
chips, broccoli, whatever you want to call it. My brother posted it. They need some support.
That's right.
And
Reed Justice Initiative. Venmo, I'm gonna say it again. Reed Justice Initiative, man. Hey, and let me say this, man, as we move forward into the fourth quarter. If we get behind this and this movement take off, and we get this man's life saved, think what's gonna happen later on. We got to see the big picture in this unity drive and this unity mission. Let's come together now, and later on when we really make other waves, it'll get bigger and bigger. Fourth quarter, locker room, we coming right back. Heavy show, deep show. We at this, man. We ain't gonna play with y'all in this locker room. I told you, it's gonna get better and better, and they keep getting there. God is great. Fourth quarter, we right back at you.
It's extremely difficult, you know. My dad, he's been in my life all my life.
Do you wish you could be there?
Oh yes, I wish I should have always been there.
How long were your parents married?
Yeah, 52 years.
52 years. When was the last time you saw your dad?
It's like at the beginning of the year.
What did he say to you? Do you remember?
Well, we had a conversation, and he, told me he loved me. I tell him I love him, and wishing I was home, wishing, that I was home. I knew that he was I knew he was on a decline because he had the heart surgery.
He always believed that you were innocent?
Yes. I'm just glad he was at least, here to see me get to stay.
I'm gonna send a message. That's why I like calling people out on things, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? We back fourth quarter.
Man.
I'm gonna reach out to my people, man, and I told you this, man. I'm in the stepping on toes business now. Because we losing lives, man. Yeah. It's a tragedy what's going on, and people sitting on all these resources and not willing to help in the trenches. You've been in the trenches for years. I'm gonna let you get to some powerful talk. Got a story? I need y'all just to listen, man. Tune in and listen, man. Let's go.
He asked me, PBS, I think it was PBS, they ran a story years ago about the study of rogue elephants. You can Google it, rogue elephant, and nevertheless, there was a group of individuals in South Africa that was building this safari park called Pellinsburg Park. And they wanted to take these elephants out of the wild. They didn't have the technology to move the adult elephants because they were too heavy. The elephants were populating at a fast rate. They tried to cull the population, kill them off, and they just let the remaining ones stay there. But they took the babies and they transported the babies and the mothers, the females, to the park, right? They left the adult males out in the wildlife. And so 10 years later, these babies are now adolescents. They teens. And they were noticing that there was a nearly extinct white rhinoceros population that they were being killed. And they were wondering, they thought it was poachers at first, right? So they set up a profile to find out who was killing these rhinoceroses. And they found out it was these teen elephants. And these teen elephants, when you watch the video, you will see that they chasing tourists out of there, that they are charging at the tourists and at the keepers and whatnot. And so they tranquilized one of the elephants, or a couple of them, and they pulled a tube of their blood. They found out that they had high levels of testosterone. And they noticed that the female elephants were not moving very much. They were laying around being lazy, and they weren't even caring for the baby elephants. They realized also that these young teen elephants were not mating anymore with the purpose, but they were having recreational sex or intercourse, right? So in order to save their project, they said, how can we do this? We don't want to cull the population. So what can we do? You're talking about 10, 15 years later. So somebody says, we have the technology now. Why don't we try reintroducing the adult bull elephants back into this particular environment and see what that does? So they transported them back into the environment, and within days and weeks, the rhinoceroses were not coming up dead anymore. The tourists were not being chased down anymore. They tranquilized one of them, pulled a tube of blood. The testosterone level was back to normal. So just in the environment,
I love it.
Physiologically, in that environment, reintroducing these male adult elephants into the environment restored the environment. Even on a biological level, the testosterone, because that testosterone level was up, because in their minds, they didn't have anyone to rear them and to shape them and to guide them to be what an elephant is. So biologically, the testosterone level rose because they had to fend for themselves and they had to protect, but they didn't have the right guidance.
Let's go. Let's go.
They noticed that once they reintroduced the adult male elephants back into the environment, that the female elephants were up, moving around, taking care of the baby elephants again. Does any of this sound familiar to anything we know anything about?
Oh yeah. Come on, pal. Let's go, brother.
So while the black community is applauding crime Bill Clinton, and his saxophone playing. It was under his administration that introduced the crime bill that gave the unfair and unjust sentencing for crack cocaine that ruined a lot of our families, that put a lot of our men in prison, right? For 20 years, 25 years, right? So what happened to the young folks? What level of testosterone existed with our teens, with our babies that was growing up without men? And then what did they begin to do? What kind of behaviors did they start to exhibit? Well, what would happen if we reintroduced the OGs back into our community? What would happen if we reintroduced those old school parents like Ray Jackson Sr. and we reintroduced them unchained and let them loose in the community? I guarantee you what we see in welfare housing and young ladies that seem like they haven't found their way, I guarantee you, because the men would straighten up and help to bring order back to the community, we would see order from A to Z. So what would happen if we did that? What would happen if we reintroduced our OGs and our adults back into the community and back into the homes? We would see a restoration, and we wouldn't have to be sitting here rallying and talking about a campaign to free Rodney Reed. Hell, we would have men standing up everywhere. So this is a message to the men in the community. Let's go. It's not about recognition, it's about results. And so some of us, you know, and the way we grew up, you know, I don't care nothing about your gangster. I don't respect your gangster. If your gangster you can't take the fortitude and you can't transfer that into courage to help secure your family. I got one more.
Let's get it. You know I love you, boy.
The lion is the king of the jungle, right?
Bobby Mack like him. Sitting
at the foot of the pyramids, one of the wonders of the world, which means they wonder how it was put together, and they haven't found out yet. With that big broad nose blown off, it's a statue called the Sphinx. The head of a man and the body of a lion. Excuse me, the head of a black man and the body of a lion. Well, why did they set that there? To serve as a reminder that we are the fathers of civilization. Well, how important is a lion? Why use the lion? Because a lion has 3 forms of communication. That's right. Right? That's right. A lion has a walk of pride, right? Walks with his chest out. He walks with dignity, and he sends a message by way of that physical movement that he ain't to be played with. If that walk don't work, he has verbal communication called the roar. And you know, a lion can roar, and it'll be birds way up 20 foot up in the tree flying off, right? Because of that roar, it vibrates the environment. If the walk of confidence don't work and the roar doesn't work, he has a paw. And in the strength of that paw, he can exact retribution on anybody that's trying to harm his pride or harm his cubs. And so what if we restored ourselves? What if we restored ourselves and we got the dignity of the original man, the black man, back restored in our community and walked with dignity? And we spoke with confidence and they could hear that roar, and if we just had to. But see, if you restore them to, you don't have to use the paw, because they'll already know. So we won't have an issue with police brutality, because they'll know we're policing our own community. And if we have to call them, we done did all the work. You just need to come pick them up. And they'll know also you can't come into our community with that foolishness without dealing with these lions down here. And so instead of Big Mama having to call 911 because little Tyrone, you know, may be on a little something, or he may have some issues, she called Worldwide B Mac and say, hey, come down here and talk to him. Ray, come down and talk to him. And then if Ray and B Mac and Robert Muhammad and Sherwynn can't deal with it, and we go to that length and we say, okay, well, we gonna call so-and-so and the supervisor, y'all come and y'all can take him in. But I'm telling you right now, we gonna take him in with you to make sure he's taken in properly and that he can serve and do what he needs to do and come back home and pay his debt to his community and to society, instead of us donning RIP t-shirts, holding picket signs saying justice for so-and-so and justice for so-and-so. No, we gotta reintroduce our OGs back to the community and get the respect as men. So we need men to show up on November the 9th. I'm not talking to the people that's not men. I'm talking to those that know that they're men and want to reclaim their spot in their community and their homes. The world will never respect us until our men step up and restore our community back to prominence.
Hey, it's interesting that you're talking about that, because what you're talking about is
man.
you're talking about the village.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Right.
And so we were in Uganda. I guess it's been about 3 years ago. And here we go. We went out to this remote village. So you didn't have any law enforcement out there. In that remote village, the only thing that you had to depend upon were the people in the village.
Wow.
And so the thing is, though, that nobody was messing with anybody's livestock, because livestock was money out there in the village. So you had to really, if you had a cow, that was money. And so, you know, I asked a question. I was talking to one of the guys. I said, so how do y'all keep things together? You know, where's the law out here? And he said, well, you know, out here in the village, he said we are the law. And, you know, and so they take care of each other, and they also know. It tripped me out because he said someone knows that you can be punished by death for taking somebody's livestock. That's money. And so the thing is that nobody was going to be called, but death was going to happen. And so the thing is that for us as a village, hey, we talking about the movie Harriet coming out now. You know, when she was leading people on that Underground Railroad. Once you started on the Underground Railroad, you wasn't turning back.
That's it.
You couldn't turn back. So the thing is this: we've made it easy, like you were just talking about. We made it easy for people not to stand up and be who they were created to be.
That's right.
And so what we have to get back to is allowing one another to be who they're supposed to be, and also insisting on it, encouraging each other. And it's about support, but it's also about accountability. And what you just did was you held us accountable for being what we were created to be the men in our community. And we have to go back and look at the design of how the system was designed in order to break families apart.
Absolutely.
When the LBJ actually signed that legislation where it was supposed to be about welfare, but women could not receive that welfare if they had a male or someone in the house that was making a certain amount of money. So that meant that men were removed from the house. So now you have someone in the house that's a single mom. So single moms, that was a byproduct of the system creating that. And so I think that what you just said is absolutely correct. I can't go to the animal kingdom, but you sure did it the way that I can't do it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, I'm an LBJ representative. This is something for our community to understand too. I'm LBJ basketball, whatever it is. But they asked me about bringing our community together, and I said, man, we should have been called Northeast originally. And they scrapped that LBJ name.
If you high school, I'm talking about LBJ the president.
That's the president. That's who the school is named after. That's why I'm telling you. And they taking down statues. Let's get rid of that. You know what I'm saying? And let's name this Northeast High School all over here. Put all our kids together. Build our feeder schools and get away with them names, them Reagans and them LBJs. Let's move in a different direction. We can name this school Obama if we want to, or we can name it Malcolm X
or Jackson.
Beautiful thing.
And let me say this in closing for the male piece that
we're gonna let you eat with that. No, ain't no closing. Let's go. Because that's Bobby Mack. Look at Bobby Mack ready to chew bones on that.
But I'm just saying, at all the species on the planet, they have male and female, right? But the only species of life that has man is the human being. So, you know, animals, mammals, you got male and female. There's water life, you got male and female. But no species on this planet can claim that a male can be classified as a man except for the human being. So we got to restore manhood in our community. So we born males, right? But there are very few of us that's born males in this day and time that evolve into manhood and become men today.
You know, it's funny because you know I love lions. I hear all this on Facebook, lying this and lying that. Let me tell y'all something about a lion. A lion is the king of the jungle, and we know this. I'm gonna say this one time, and I might say it twice. A lion would never sleep with a cheetah. I hope you say, listen, he never will. He will only sleep with another lioness. That's it. Because you got to understand, when you king, that's how they look at you.
Hey.
You understand what I'm saying? And if you over here dabbing and dipping, you nothing. But when you stand up right, they gonna say, man, that's the reason why he the king of the jungle. He ain't over there with the cheat. He ain't over there with the type. He with the lioness.
And once you secure that type of bond and
Man,
community,
come on, man, you
then and only then can you properly commune with other communities because your community is secure.
There you go.
You see what
That's
I'm saying?
100 right there.
But we the only group of people when we start hearing that kind of talk, man, that ain't, man, listen. When I go over to Chinatown over here, that's what I see.
Right?
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
When you go to Greek town in some of these large cities, that's what you see. You see what I'm saying? But when we talk as people, it ain't other people that have a problem with that kind of talk. It's us that have a problem with that kind of talk. And because we have a lack of understanding of how to preserve something. You see what I'm saying? And so man, y'all gonna give me to a whole nother.
Keep it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We flexing. This is the locker room.
So my point is that when we stand up as men in our communities, we ain't talking to no governor about one of ours being free. You see what I'm saying? Because it don't get that far. You see what I'm saying? So he gets a fair trial from the very beginning. Matter of fact, he don't even get charged because you keep the right suspect out front. You see what I'm saying?
And it go from lawyer point
as a matter of fact, he don't even get those dynamics don't even exist.
It don't even happen.
It don't happen.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So
I hear you.
Let's ask this question then. So we know what's going on. So how do we get to where you talk about? Because we have to have men. The solution. Because we have to empower our men have power. What we have to do is help them to recognize the power that they have as men. And I believe we have people that really don't know who they are. And if you don't know who you are, then you just act like anything because you don't know who you identify with. So how do we, as men, help our young men to get to the point where they recognize the power that's already within them?
One of the things we got to do is we got to accept them where they are. You see,
meet them where they at.
Because quite often, older people, when we approach young people, we act like we were never their age. We act like we act like we didn't do the stuff that they do. You
if not worse.
So we approach them from a position of arrogance and self-righteousness, and they ain't trying to hit that. And then, what do we have to offer them? You see what I'm saying? You telling me to go to school, get a degree, get a job, you got all of that, but you got no respect in your own house. You got no respect in your own community. And matter of fact, you can't even find a damn job in this society. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So how can our seed, our children, respect men that are not exhibiting evidence of manhood? You see what I'm saying? But in order to make a man, I'm gonna go spiritual on y'all.
You got something coming up though too.
Yes, I do. So one of the things that was for sure to get you killed during the days of slavery was to pray, right, and to read. Well, what books did we have availed to us to read? The Bible, right? Well, why is it that after a certain period of time, if they would kill you for reading that book, that they readily make it available to you and I? See, that the rebellion of Nat Turner, that only lasted a few days, but do you know they outlawed preaching in several states after that until they got a control of? So, you know, the interesting thing to me, hell, if I'm called by God, I don't need no damn license from the man he calling me to take a message to. And I'm not telling nobody not to do that. But I'm saying,
if you call,
they played with the theological interpretation of what the Savior taught, and they knew it would take us a century or two to extract the same type of power from it once we came to the proper understanding of it to be able to extract power. The Nation of Islam, the Holy Quran was the book revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and that's the book of the Muslims. But the Nation of Islam was not built on that Holy Quran. It was built from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Honorable Louis Farrakhan teaching manhood from the biblical perspective, because that's what our people know. But because, like a scientist, you can go in and extract aspects of it, and you can make it live. It's no longer a dead letter scripture, and it's not history, because we can go to that same book and we can extract living examples that live in this time that we walking through. So we're not looking 2,000 years ago. We're not looking 4,000 years ago. Hell, we looking in this book, and it's everything in this book is happening right now. Right? So once you restore a man to manhood, he seeks manhood, and men gravitate to one another. You see what I'm saying? Right? And the scripture says that what? Men sharpen men like as steel sharpen steel. Iron sharpen iron, right? So we gotta get our feelings off our sleeves. We gotta get in a room, and we gotta restore. One of the things we've been successful with is restoring our people through history. This is why you got something called hidden colors, because that history expands the realm of possibility of everybody's mind. If I know I'm connected to the Savior, and the Savior looks like me, and the prophets look like me, and he came for me, then now I'm not looking at another community per se, right? But I got something to identify with.
So what you just talking about, real quick, is rightfully dividing the word of truth, and
see, that's why he here.
Yeah, that's why he here. Understanding it for yourself, because if you don't rightly divide it, then what happens is that you really rob it of its power, because you're not speaking the word according to the word of God. And so the power in the word of God is God. And so if you take it and deviate from that, then you take God out of the word, and it just becomes a word.
That's all.
Period.
That's right.
And so. It's one more thing, man, I want to touch on that you said, because it's good stuff. The other thing that you were talking about is absolutely true, is that when you take someone and you rob them of their identity, right? So you just talked about how people don't see a reflection of themselves in the Word of God. We have to teach that.
That's right.
Because there's many people that don't know that there were people that look like you and I.
That's right.
That were more than just in the Bible, but they were primary folks that's in the Bible.
More than just hewers of wood and drawers of water.
There you go. And so, and I think that has to be talked about. And the last thing I'm gonna say, man, boy, you can talk. Hey, God gave, but the last thing is that when you point back to Nat Turner, you know what happened, and even if you look at anybody who was considered, I would call him a modern day prophet, and the reason why they killed him because of that uprising that he caused.
They had to quiet
they had to quiet quick.
They had to get hold of that.
But any time that you become a prophet, that God has called you to be a prophet, and you are rightfully dividing that word, and you telling people the truth, and you standing for truth, and you combine all of those things, so you embody the power of God. If they will crucify Jesus, I mean, they will crucify and kill you. And the thing, ain't no doubt about it. And so this is what I would say. We do have to get past being complacent and being unwilling to take a risk. Because if you're gonna stand, if you're gonna be a man, you're gonna take a risk. So everybody's not gonna like what you have to say. Everybody's not gonna agree with what you have to say. Everybody didn't agree with Jesus. And the fact of the matter is that we look at it and we say, Jesus, I want to be like you. Well, Jesus died and he got up from the grave.
His chief disciple was against him in the end.
That's what I'm talking about. And so the fact of the matter is that when we say that you have to be willing to die for something, well, you do. It's some folks that would say, man, do you know it's probably some people that say that we shouldn't be friends and we shouldn't be sitting here talking together? You know, hey, man, that's crazy.
I tricked the world. I tricked the world for this, and y'all, man, quit playing with us,
you know,
Bobby.
People can't say they willing to die for something if they ain't willing to live for it. You know what I'm saying? But November the 23rd.
Let's go with that.
At ACC Eastview Campus, Black Male Summit at 12 noon. November the 23rd,
November
Black
23rd.
Male Summit,
Where?
ATX, ACC Eastview Campus at 12 noon. I can see
I'll
the
be
flyer
there.
so
We
you
gonna
can post it.
Yeah, we gonna post it.
We got dynamic people coming. We got Babu
invited.
Blakes is gonna be one of the presenters.
We invited.
One of you, well, absolutely.
I like when people tell me I can come.
The theme is education, survival, and what's the other one? Education, survival, and success. So we got Troy Knowles, which is a
dog.
2324 entrepreneur.
Legend, dog.
He live in
One of the
Dallas,
first
but
ones.
we know he grown up here. He was born out west, but this is his home, of course. Coming through, we got a young a brother by the name of Arthur Silky Slim Reed, who was a prominent gangbanger out in New Orleans and has launched several organizations that deal with conflict resolution and restoration. So we got a host of people coming that's going to participate in this thing and help us jump this thing off. We got to rebuild our community, and so this is a start. I got my brother Derek C. Muhammad from Houston, who is the founder and the brainchild of the Black Male Summit, who's doing it in Miami and in Houston, that's coming down to help facilitate the situation. And so we're going to have a good time, but we're going to build.
Yes.
We're going to plan.
Yes.
And we're going to make this a periodic thing so that we can build on it. Because when my grandbabies come up, I don't need them talking about the same things and trying to address the same things that we trying to address. Talking about gentrification, but they're going to be talking about Pflugerville being gentrified. They're going to be talking about Maynard being gentrified. No, we got to dead that right now.
Oh, yeah, for real. That's real time,
So,
man.
November the 23rd, ACC Eastview Campus, 12 noon. We need everybody to come up. You can go to Black Male Summit ATX.eventbrite.com and you can go and RSVP for it. We just had to expand it because the RSVP tickets are going fast, and so we need everybody to go and to RSVP for it.
Say it
I'm
again.
looking forward to it.
Give me that again.
Black Male Summit ATX.eventbrite.com.
Most definitely. We're going to go back and post that and give y'all that information again. Don't forget about November 9th as well, 2 o'clock. Governor Mansion.
Governor's Mansion. I'm going to send you the flyer.
Hey, man, it's so much stuff you need to be involved with. And Bobby Mack ready to smack people around anyway and tell them, y'all lying out here. Y'all hiding behind social media.
Yep.
You ain't out here in these trenches with these guys that have been doing it, been living it. You ain't doing nothing, bro. They paving the way for us to get behind them and do what we need to do.
Yes.
You understand? Quit trying to be the front of the show.
Yeah.
You're not the front of the show. Get in your position and let's follow some great leaders like these men and do what we need to do and play our position.
Hey, man, I'm just a humble servant.
Man, I love you, bro. I'm going to uplift.
You good,
hey,
though, baby.
we celebrating on the locker room. This Scorpio season, baby. This weekend, November 2nd, man, we in Pflugerville, man.
This is where we get ready for the game and discuss the game, right?
The locker room. We discuss the game of life.
The game out there.
Can we do this one more time?
Let's do this. Do what you do. It's your show.
The GoFundMe.
Yeah, the
The
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe. Venmo information is Reed Justice Initiative, at Reed Justice Initiative. It's posted. I'm going to post it again tonight. We're going to flood this information, man, these dates. The 9th, the 23rd, we want to see a change, man. Go ahead, B-Mac.
But not only this, it's piggybacking off of Brother Muhammad is this, man. If you go out and support this, which I hope we all do, I want you to understand something. You can look back and you can tell your son, your daughter, what you did. You see what I mean? You can tell them what you did. And then they'll be like, oh, you did that? And then you got something to talk to them about.
That's good.
You know, you got something, well, it was this many people, and we all spoke up and we all fought for. See, part of it is you got to tell your youngster what you was fighting for. We fighting for a man's death. They're going to be like, wow.
What was like?
Well, yeah, and then you telling them what it's like. So they're going to expect it when they get older. Like that. You remember when y'all fought for well, you know what, I'm fighting for my And it goes for generations to generation, and that's how you build trust in your young kids, because they seeing it. You know what I mean? But if you don't do it, then you have nothing to say.
That's right.
Then you listen, fall back into the wilderness and shut the hell up. Because if I don't see your ass out there and you telling your youngster one thing, I'm gonna have to shut you down and embarrass the youngster because he's gonna be mad at you. So don't live that false life, man. I'm just saying, man. We gonna be out on this, man. But for real,
how y'all want to, gentlemen. This y'all show.
Yeah,
they
man.
didn't think I could bring. I mean it, Bobby. When I say me, y'all know I'm speaking for Bobby Mack. Christian men, Muslim men together and be unified. But God is in control at all times, and it's gonna be done. Close it out how y'all want to do it, man. It's y'all show. What y'all got for the world?
The only thing I got is we've talked, had serious talk. We've had fun and we've laughed. Now let's end it on a serious note. Let's do what we talked about, and let's go out there and handle that business. We need y'all to step up and do it, and we need our whole village doing it.
That's right.
I need y'all sharing this video. Go ahead, brother.
I just want to thank y'all again for using your platform like you always do every single week. And I just wanted to send a shout out to, Sherwynn, Patton, for being and allowing himself to be used as a tool by his Lord to pull people together. And when I saw that august body of pastors and faith leaders, I became emotional because I understand what that means. You know what I'm saying? Now I understand. I understand that everybody that was there may not have the total resolve, but it's a start.
It's a start, man.
Right?
Sure.
And so it was because this brother asked, and he was given an answer, and he moved on it. And so I'm grateful, and the Reed family is grateful for that type of support, and we need to keep it growing. And so we're gonna spread this thing out. We hitting up fraternities next. We hitting up these black organizations that say they help black everybody. You won't tell me you help black people? Damn it, this is the greatest need we got right now.
That's right. He meant it serious.
A brother told me, he said, man, I appreciate the work you're doing. You don't get enough credit and recognition. I don't need no damn credit. My reward is with my Lord. I don't need no credit.
Store them up there.
The credit, man. Let me tell you something. Shaka Sankofa, Gary Graham was executed, and I was a young Muslim then. And when I showed up to support our regional minister from Houston, my mentor, because he was his spiritual advisor, when I showed up, the Klan was there. The Panthers were there. They just had the World Trade Organization riot in Seattle. They had white boys with everything covered except their eyes. They had C4 explosives and dynamite. It was people lighting flags. And they said if they execute this brother, we turning this thing out. The state police were on top of the wall. Guns trained on the crowd. This was some serious business. Every major network was present. Geraldo was running his show. Y'all remember Geraldo? He was filming his show live from right there. And because it had reached that height, you had the likes of Reverend Jackson and Reverend Al Sharpton that was there, but they killed that man. They took his life, and he proclaimed his innocence until his death. I don't want to have to relive that. You see what I'm saying? Because people think they want to know if we gonna demonstrate peacefully. Them white boys that was in that audience, I'm telling you right now, if we had said let's set it off,
then it would have been set off.
You ain't got to worry about us. But when people that feel like this country is rightfully theirs feel like they've been wronged, I don't know nobody else walking around here, no black people, no sticks of dynamite, no terrorism, none of that stuff. I saw a different look, and I had a different understanding of white males on that day. I said, they not playing. And they was there with us.
That's how this gonna
I
be.
said, man, shit.
That's how this new beginning.
I don't know if I ain't had my children yet. I ain't had, you know what I'm saying? You start looking around. Well, you say you with it.
Yeah, here it is.
You ready to die? No doubt.
God,
So yeah,
awesome.
but man, thank y'all, brothers. I really
Man,
appreciate it. I love y'all, man. Keep doing what you
y'all.
do. And man, may God keep blessing
praying
y'all
for us,
with
man.
the
We
work,
praying
that
for
you're
y'all,
doing.
brother.
And let's get it in.
We ready to ride behind y'all. B Mac, what you got, man? Close us out, big dog.
Reach one, teach one. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Locker room.
See y'all next week, baby. We out of here. Classic, boy. Ooh, they can't say nothing about that locker room.